On July 1st, we're going to have to say goodbye to Google Analytics, specifically the UA properties. Now, if your website uses Google Analytics, especially the free one, then I suggest you listen to this video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Shorful, and on this channel, we talk about everything data. So if you're a budding analyst or a seasoned pro or someone who shares the data in digital analytics, then I suggest you subscribe to my channel and also ring the bell icon so you can stay up to date with all the helpful tips and advice that I have to offer. If the migration to GA4 is a priority for you, then I suggest you check out these videos because it will help you understand more about what's going on in this space. Before we begin, I've split this video up into chapters. They are as follows. What does GA4 mean for you? Why you don't really need to worry about it. There will be some discrepancies. Keeping your historical data, using BigQuery, migration will take some effort. If you'd like to pause here and grab a coffee, or maybe even get yourself a notebook and pen, perhaps even jot the date down, because like our data, we like to stay structured. So those of you who use GA4, especially for reporting on your website, what does GA4 really mean for you? Well, the first thing is not to really worry about how GA4 is different to Universal Analytics. I mean, if you're responsible for the website performance, then you shouldn't really worry about the difference in the technology between GA4 and Universal Analytics. Well, what does GA4 mean for you? Well, for those of you who have Google Analytics on your website, you know in about a couple of weeks' time or even a month's time, you'll no longer be able to collect data from Universal Analytics. You'll have to have changed over to GA4 already or in the process of changing over to GA4. If you don't do that, then you'll no longer be able to measure how your website's performing. Now, if you're doing that, the first thing is not to worry about what the difference in technology between GA4 and UA is. Because if you're responsible for your website's performance, that shouldn't really be your first priority. There's a lot of chatter around how GA4 is better than UA, how it can track across platform, how it allows for more granular data collection, and how it's using AI to account for cookie blocking. And even that it provides many features that were once only available for the paid version of Google Analytics GA360. So why don't you have to worry about what the difference is between UA and GA4? Well, if you are responsible for, measuring on the performance of the website or a website or an app, then your first responsibility really is to have a seamless transition or a seamless migration between Universal Analytics and GA4. Because we know that with any analytics migration, it's never as easy as just changing tracking code. And that's because it involves reconciling numbers, understanding why discrepancies occur, and then finally communicating those to the business so that post-migration, the business can trust the numbers that they're receiving. Because what you don't want is leave the business wondering if it can trust the numbers that you are now producing, because they will be different to the numbers that you produced before. So your first priority really should be, how do you manage a seamless migration? How do you communicate that there will be differences, and how do you reconcile and explain those differences to the business so they can trust your numbers post-migration? Now, for those of you who've already migrated from UA to GA4, there was a period where you could have both tracking codes on the website. So it allowed for you to track the website with both tracking codes and see where the differences occur. And that allowed you then to, over time, work out, if GA was reporting slightly higher unique user numbers or slightly lower visit numbers, then at least you could see that and you could see if it's consistent, and you could then have time to formulate, an explanation of why that difference occurred. If you haven't done that already, then you don't really have the luxury of running both codes simultaneously. So therefore, once you put your GA4 code on, you've got to really look at your historical data and see if the new data you're getting from GA4, where the discrepancy is, and if you can explain that discrepancy. There's a lot of material around why Google counts things differently in the new world. So it's worth researching that and then using that to explain to the business why your numbers will differ. Now, if you think that once you've changed codes and if you track exactly the same that you won't get any discrepancies, unfortunately, I will have to share bad news with you. There will be some discrepancies. So no matter how great the tracking is, no matter how similar you've made both the UA tracking code and the GA tracking code, just the fact that GA is a different type of technology means that it will produce different numbers. If you had the luxury, or like I said, of having both tracking codes on your website, you should be able to see where those differences occur. If you haven't done that and you're just deploying GA4 now, then you need to read around why those differences occur and why the technology underpinning GA4 results in those differences. And the key component here is not for you to try to get accurate numbers matching your historical UA numbers. the key here for you as an analyst or someone who does the reporting on your website performance is being able to handle how you communicate those differences to the business, because the important thing is that the business has to be able to trust you. Now, if you are suddenly moving over to GA4, let's say in July, and you're looking at a month-on-month comparator, you may see an increase just by the nature of switching solutions from UA to GA4. Okay, it's those things that you need to handle. You don't want the business to believe that it's suddenly done better because GA4 now reports on more unique users because it's dealt with cookie blocking with AI, or that conversion's gone down because GA4's got stricter privacy controls, therefore it doesn't track certain things at certain granularities. So you need to make sure that you handle how you communicate the discrepancies very effectively to the business. Also, be honest that the technologies do mean that they will count things differently, but essentially when you're reporting on year on year, month on month, week on week, when you do that migration, the business needs to understand that that is an organic increase. That is an increase due to the technology, not an increase due to anything they've done. Now, the difficult thing is if you run any marketing campaigns or anything, you won't be able to work out how much effect those marketing campaigns or other activity, product changes, site changes have had, compared to just having the tracking code. So ideally, you should have been tracking for a while. I mean, Google Analytics have allowed you to have the dual tracking code for over a year, I think about 2 years. But if you haven't done it, then when you deploy now, just realize that you are going to have some discrepancies, and you need to be able to differentiate between the discrepancies that happen because you've moved away from UA to GA4 and the discrepancies that may have happened because you've run campaigns or made site changes. Ideally, if you are just moving from UA to GA4 now, and you're not having dual tracking on your site, then you probably want to tell the business not to make any changes on the website or drive any additional traffic or change any marketing activity, because you want to be able to isolate what the effect of the migration is. So the next challenge you're going to be worried about when you're reporting on your data is that when you log into GA4, it won't have any historical data. It will literally start from the day you put the tracking code in. So where is your historical data? So your historical data will be still in Universal Analytics. You can still read the report. Google said they'll make the data available for another 6 months, so potentially until the end of the year. So you've got until the end of the year to run year-on-year reports or look at historical data. Now, after that 6 months is over, what do? You're going to lose access to that data. So you've got a few choices. One is obviously you could download as many reports that you want from Google Analytics or send them to yourself, or you could download the data using an API into Google Sheets, or you can connect it to Google Sheets and just export the data through an API. There are options to do to sort of do those tactically, just download the data and have it. The only problem with those tactical solutions is that you might end up with lots and lots of sheets as you try to download a lot of data, and you may not have downloaded all the data, because don't forget, unless you really know what you're looking for, you may find that you miss certain data that you need. So Google have actually come up with a solution for this, and this is using BigQuery. Okay, so what they said is that for GA4, they will provide a free connector to BigQuery. So BigQuery is Google's database solution in Google Cloud Platform, GCP. So what it allows you to do is set up a free instance of BigQuery, connect it to your Google Analytics, and you can export all that data. A more robust solution than just downloading lots and lots of Excel sheets is to use BigQuery. Now in GA4, you'll find that you can connect to BigQuery for free. Unfortunately, Universal Analytics doesn't allow you to connect for free, so you need to pay for a connector and connect the data in, but it does provide for a more robust solution to store historical data. So you could potentially write an API that will pull all the data, or you could pay for a connecting solution like Supermetrics to pull all the data from Universal Analytics, and you could store it in BigQuery, and then you can plug in Data Studio, or Looker Studio as it's known now, into BigQuery, and you can export all the data out of Universal Analytics and have it in your BigQuery instance. Now, I believe you can store about terabytes of data for free. I think it's within the allowance, or it might be within a trial period. I'm not quite sure, but there is a quota that you can store for free, and there's also a free quota in terms of how much you process. But if you're not a heavy user of running reports, if you're not heavy in running reports, or you don't have that much data, your website's, thousands of users rather than millions of users or hundreds of thousands, you find that the cost is very marginal. So, but there is a cost compared to where you had it before for free in Universal Analytics. So, a more robust solution is to pull all the data into BigQuery. And one of the things that you will know is that GA4, like I said, provides a free connector to BigQuery so that you can then actually combine both of your data from Google Analytics, Universal Analytics and GA4 into BigQuery, and then use Data Studio or Looker Studio to read that data and provide it in the same dashboard. Okay, otherwise you're running a dashboard for your historical data and a dashboard for your new data. And if you want to see trend lines, it's much better to bring it all into one place so you can put it all into one report. In my other videos around Google Analytics, I talk about why using BigQuery for GA4 is not only important, but will be quite a necessity. So if you haven't migrated to GA4 yet, then just to note that migration will take some effort. Okay. Now, you could decide that I'm just going to do a like-for-like tracking replacement. So I'm just going to put GA4 instead of UA and do that. But as we know, GA4 is slightly different. You're going to end up with discrepancies anyway. So this may be an opportunity to clean up your tracking, make sure that, any issues that you had in Universal Analytics, you sort of address in GA4, because it's a good opportunity, because it's a new tracking technology, to make sure you fix all those issues. The other thing is, if you are going to migrate and you're going to have discrepancies with GA4 and you're going to lose access to your Universal Analytics after 6 months, is also think about what we talked about before, migrating or exporting everything to BigQuery. It might be an opportunity to develop and design better reporting in BigQuery than to rely on either Data Studio connecting to Universal Analytics or the reports that come out of Google Analytics directly. That's about it for the video. If you'd like me to cover anything specifically, please leave a comment in the comment sections below. I'm always checking the comments, so I'll either respond in the comment section or potentially create a video about it. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like. Also, do subscribe and ring the bell icon so you don't miss any of my future videos.